What's going on, everybody? This is Dan French. This is the French Workbench Podcast here on a Tuesday. And we have a full studio. We have a great couple of guests in here today. I'm your host. I've been your host for quite a while now. And I want to tell you guys, thank you so much. This is the most real behind-the-scenes information regarding financing real estate and entrepreneurs here in Las Vegas. And, we have a full studio. I want to go over and introduce my co-host, my good friend here, Mr. Rick Rains. Rick, what's happening, buddy? How are you?
Good evening. Hey, I'm doing great.
Thanks for coming back again, man.
Hey, man.
Sometimes I'm like, you know what? Rick's going to one day say, maybe I'm not going to come back. And you're like, you know what? I just enjoy it. I love it.
Well, I don't think it's going to be anytime soon, but we'll see.
We'll see, right? Hey, so what about the traffic out there right now?
Traffic was easy tonight, man.
Was it?
I was running behind. I sent you a text, but I made up the time, and here I am.
So we have a couple of guests here. So I want to say, a lot of people they do have questions about what's going on with contractors, material costs, labor. And so we got a couple of guys in here that are really experts at what they do. And it's really a pleasure to have them on. And so let's go ahead and introduce them first. I'm going to go ahead and bring up Mr. John over here. John, what's going on today, buddy?
How you doing, buddy?
Good. You're with Design Builders, general contractor, right?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay, man. So what's going on? How long you? First off, thanks for coming on. But how long have you been doing this type of job?
I've been doing construction almost 30 years. I've been with Design Builders for 7.
Okay.
The company's been here in town for 30.
Okay.
And yeah, man, thanks for having us.
Yeah, you've been doing this for a long time, and also we have your. I guess you can call him. I don't know if he's your boss, but we'll just go ahead and introduce Mr. Julio.
Wow. Okay.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
No,
Colleague?
a colleague, right? You guys are like basically, you guys are yin and yang, I guess, right? You guys work together. You guys been doing things together for a while, right?
That's a good way to characterize a relationship.
A trusted partnership.
Yeah, a trusted partnership. So Julio, what are you doing? What's your role there as far as at Design Builders?
I am a civil engineer. Graduated from the UNLV in 1993. I've got over 30 years experience. I'm a senior project manager for Design Builders.
Let's bring over, I want to bring in Julio here, and Julio is a senior project manager for Design Builders. And so Julio, take me through the process of why somebody would need or what to look for when you're looking at somebody that's a licensed contractor, and what is the differences?
Sure. Through the Nevada State Contractors Board, they typically have 3 classifications of license. It's A, a B, and a C classification. An A classification is your general engineering. That's a lot of the heavy civil work, roadway, plumbing, refineries, petroleum, all of the infrastructure that would encompass a master plan community, the water, sewer, your dry utilities. Then you've got your B, which is your general building. That's your vertical construction. Most of your home builders in town have what's called the B2 classification. Most of the contractors who work on the Strip who build the high rises have what's called the full B. We're in a unique position where we have an AB, which encompasses all of the subclassifications. There's 23 subclassifications contained within the A, and there's 6 within the B.
Okay.
The AB encompasses all of those.
Okay.
And then you have your specialty contractors licenses, which are your plumbers.
That's the C, right?
That's your C. Your C class, plumbers the C1, a mason's a C.
And I think you're explaining before we were on air that basically the C always has to be separate from like A and B. Like you can't be A, B, and C. Correct? And you have to hire those out?
There's certain restrictions in the language for your B classifications where you as a B contractor cannot self-perform what we used to call the deadly 4.
Okay.
Plumbing, electrical, HVAC, and fire protection.
Okay.
You can have a B and then you can have a specialty license, but most contractors don't. So they have to subcontract with those specific trades.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So, but you still control them, so to speak.
We do.
When you subcontract them.
They are subcontractors.
Okay.
Ultimately, they're under our control. And then specific to the monetary limit, the Contractors Board imposes limitations with the monetary limit. So that kind of limits the liability of what these contractors can do.
Gotcha. Okay.
So upon application for your contractor's license, you'll submit your financials. And based on the financial wherewithal, they'll determine what your monetary limit is. Well, once again, we're in a unique position where ours is unlimited.
Okay.
We have no monetary cap.
Okay.
We
So
keep-
basically, that's
So
a
does that-
position that's earned.
Does that feel? Yes, of
Absolutely.
course.
absolutely,
Yeah.
Both from an experience standpoint and a financial world.
Absolutely, yeah.
But does that filter down to the C classification as well? So, as an example, let's just say that you could build the Trump Tower or something like that, but a C plumber, he only has a limited on his particular license. Does yours override that so he could do the whole thing if you wanted him to?
No, just for simple math, let's say we were doing Trump Tower revisited, and it's a $10 million project, but the plumbing scope for that is $500,000. They would have to have a $500,000 monetary limit to be able to bid and contract for that work.
And let's say they didn't. Can you do you normally hire more than one plumber then to finish it, or do you just wait to find the guy with $500,000?
No, you couldn't segregate it. The contractor can apply for what is termed a one-time or a permanent raise and limit.
Okay.
So
That's cool.
he would have
That's
to
how you do it.
reapply, submit his financials, and if they supported that $500,000 limit, then they would in turn grant them a new financial, and he would be able to perform that work.
Is that a normal way that guys get their limits increased?
They do, because a lot of times they'll start small with a small idea.
Okay, yeah.
They'll start building residential pools anywhere in the neighborhood of $30 to $40, $50,000. Then somebody can talk to them about building a commercial pool. Now
Right,
you've jumped
right,
into the
right.
$150,000
Okay.
market.
Got it.
So they can go ahead, and if they foresee the future and are going to stay in that environment, then it behooves them to procure a
up.
permanent raise and
Sure.
limit.
I'll get
So-
you ready. Here.
so
So,
let me
generally
piggy-
speaking, we just talked. You outlined rising prices in. You listed several things: lumber, metal, so on and so forth. Do you, from your perspective, do you have an idea what's causing that? Is it all from? Is it all foreign, or is it domestic? Is it a combination? Is it just that they can't? Is it labor that they can't get the stuff here? What's
I think it's-
the cause of it?
I think it's all of it. And what the point I was going to make right before that, and then I'll come back to that, was our history in this town. We have a lot of subs that we work with, and you get everybody who submits you a bid says, good for 30 days. We've had that luxury of it's good for 60, it's good for 90.
Yeah.
So back to your thing, when COVID started and things started slowing down and people started moving and there was just people stopped producing things, or there's like 3 main mills that all the wood comes from,
Yeah.
and one guy got sick and that whole thing shut. It's kind of like the brake light effect on a highway.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
had-
it's
and
all-
it
it's a whole chain of
it
events.
just went
Yep.
and went and went, and now with guys that we call that we've worked with for 20 years, their bid's good for 30 days because their stuff's going up 15% on average every 30 days, and it's not stopping. So any number they give you is basically
15% a month.
Yep. Yep.
And that's being caused again by all those parameters that we just
Yes.
discussed.
Yeah.
Yep.
So just to piggyback on John's comment regarding the price escalation and the timeframes, I got a bid today from a truss wood contractor who said they're 10 weeks out for a product they used to deliver in 4, and he can hold his prices for 5 business days.
Holy,
Wow.
how is that working? I mean, realistically, how is that working on your larger commercial projects that, they don't get done in 6 months or even 12? They may take 2 to 3 years. How is that impacting?
A cost plus process is what we call it, where basically you sit down with the client as the numbers change, and you have it an open book. You're not lump summing this together. I bid your building out for 150 grand, and then next year you go, no, I'm ready to move. Well, now that's 300 grand, and people look at you like you're crazy. Well, so you sit down and you create a kind of a reference price, if you will,
Kind of
and
like
then
a spreadsheet type thing?
Well, and then
Or-
every 30 days, where are we at with the project?
So it's
Where's the market?
communication.
How many-
Yes.
You're just, hey, listen,
So-
here's where we're at all
Constant-
times.
constant
I hear that, especially when you're talking about commercial.
So how many of these projects that you are starting or have been starting in the last year and a half are basically falling by the wayside because the costs have basically outpriced them as to what they can do? Has that happened?
Like 10%.
10%.
Yeah.
Wow. So it is happening.
Because money's good right now, so people can get the
Right.
money. You just got to move on it before it's not enough money. So you work
Right,
together, and
that's what I'm
everybody's
saying.
juggling the same thing.
Yeah.
the
And
And
land,
everybody's
the lumber.
working together, but 10%, sometimes it just doesn't work.
Yeah,
Labor. where are you guys at on labor? Because we hear a lot about the shortage of labor. And do you see people coming in from out of state filling positions, or do you see people from Vegas heading to somewhere where they can even make even more money? What do you see happening?
My observation is there's so much work here alone. They can't build this town fast enough and expand fast enough that everybody's just chasing the money. There's work everywhere you
Here's
turn.
where the money's at.
So what our challenges are is working with subcontractors. It's just a matter of adapting to their availability. But we also contain or have in-house workers that are under us and under our license.
Okay.
So most guys, they're not going to touch a bathroom because they
no, that helps.
homes.
That helps big time.
And
yeah,
I got a guy in-house that I can put in your bathroom for 2 weeks with him and a couple guys, knock it out, permitted everything to your liking, and get out of your way.
I'm not in this industry, but and I'm sure a lot of people might have the question: how big are these grow houses that are opening up north? What's the average size? I'm just curious.
Like square footage?
Yeah, how big
warehouses.
Are they? Yeah, how big are they?
You're talking 20, 30,000 square feet.
Okay, so basically a little bit smaller than your average Smith store.
Yes, a little bit smaller than your average Smith store with a price per square foot that's about triple your average Smith store.
Just because they can get away with it?
No, because of the requirements to do the grows, the dehues, the humidifiers, the lighting packages in there.
It's kind of hard to get permits here, right?
That's the number one challenge for us.
Permits?
In my opinion, yeah. The time to acquire them, the trails they go through now because everybody's working from home.
Sure.
That you can't go down that line. Something that took a month now takes 3. You think you're there, and then another guy grabbed a hold of it, and he's got a question that the guy before him didn't, and you're answering the question and resubmitting, and you're constantly going, when are we going to have it? And then the customer starts calling, hey, it's been 3 months. How long does it take? And you want to be fair, but you go, I don't know. Yeah. We've actually incorporated some of those things into our contract that this is the goal, this is the plan, exclusions, anything pertaining to code upgrades, building department, to just not bite us.
Okay, so that brings up a lot of questions. Is that because, one, there's that much building going on, more building, or is it because, do you think, that the guy's sitting at home watching his favorite show, and because nobody's looking over his shoulder, he's just taking his freaking time.
Do you want that honest answer to that?
No, I want him to give me an idea.
No, I'm afraid to honestly answer that.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
I think it's all of it, honestly.
Yeah.
So what's happening over here? You got some articles that you wanted to bring up, which is key points, right?
I was just going to bring up a couple of things. I was talking to Brett earlier, and just over the weekend, we're talking 3 days since we had our last podcast, that the amount of available sales has gone down 2.8% in 3 days. So, as we said for weeks and weeks, Christmas is slow, and the same thing. The same thing is happening in property management. I am getting quite a few owner calls, and the reason that happens, inquiring owners, is because a lot of owners want to make the change at the first of the year. Now is the time to call. Give us a ring if you're looking to change management or to have management handle it. One of the things I wanted to bring up, this is just some general information I was kind of surprised at. There's 280,000 property management companies in the U.S.
280,000?
280,000, and I think half of them are here in Vegas. But it feels like it sometimes. So anyway, the point to that being is that if you aren't having your property managed, there's got to be a reason there's 280,000 property management companies out there. Give us a call. One of the things, and again, we brought up recently, is the fact that the city all around the country is changing. Brett's brought it up many times with these different groups that are buying a lot of homes. They're turning into rentals. One of the things, 2 things that I found out is that because of the mandates in evictions, it actually caused higher costs, excuse me, from the standpoint of cleaning and overall maintenance because of the pandemic. That's in part is what has caused some of the rising costs. Also, what's interesting is that the city of Minneapolis, state of Oregon, California, Maryland, and Virginia are banning single-family home zoning. they're restricting it.
Really?
They're restricting it.
Why is that?
Well, what they want to do,
Yeah.
and when I say restricted, is that you can still, they're altering it so that instead of it just being single family, it can be multiple as well. So what they're doing is they're pushing towards more denser populations in smaller areas, and that goes again with what we've been discussing about these groups buying into different areas.
So the whole thing is when you're having these hedge funds come in and buy 1,500, 2,000 homes from D.R. Horton or something like that, the issue, which you naturally think of, is, well, now these are all going to be made potentially for rentals.
Correct.
So, your typical residential zoning that you have, what's going to be going on with that? But right there.
So
case in point, they're
gonna
going
do
through
is
the boards and they're changing the zoning.
They're changing the zoning. They're
Yeah.
making it so that it's a denser.
They know it's coming.
Denser population in the same geographic area.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I wanted to bring up is what people, owners and tenants look for specifically today with property management and what it is that they're expecting to get. And most of this, like our construction friends here have outlined, is going electronic. So for the most part, gone are the days where the property managers required you to come in and do everything by hand, physically. Of course, there's still some people out there that want to do that. Our firm does it both ways, but here are some of the things that are common in the industry and common with us electronically: payments, communication, listings, document sharing, maintenance, residential portals, client portals, reporting, inspections, and analytics. So those are some of the highlights of what it is that property managers in general supply or give to anyone who's interested in working with us. And other than that, again, we're back to the same thing in property management, is worrying about labor concerns. Property managers are having the same labor concerns that every other company and industry are having. So finding qualified people can be difficult. And again, our firm been around for 30 years. We're good to go, but there are a lot of companies out there that are having trouble answering the phones and getting people to go out and do inspections and things of that nature. So from a property management standpoint, or from an investor standpoint, you need to be a little bit patient with them. It's the same in every industry that's going on right now. And as the country reopens more and more from a national standpoint, it's just going to intensify with trying to find the right people for the right job.
Agreed.
And I think that's pretty much what I wanted to bring up.
So let me ask you a
tonight.
quick question, Rick. You got your
Sure.
hair, right? Did you get a hair transplant, or what is that, man? Because I'm looking at this, and we looked at it last week. You didn't really explain how this all started. Can you explain this?
Remember those troll dolls?
As I said on Saturday, there's a lot of guys that go out there that use Rogaine, and I decided to just nip that freaking in the bud. It's too expensive. So I went out, and for those of you who don't know, my last name is Rains, so I went out and we did Rogaines. And overnight, man, here we go.
Well,
And
Rick,
it's
I'm
all
going to tell you, if
good.
I take my hat off, I'm going to need some Rogaines as well. Brett and I we were perfect candidates, right,
You
bro?
are.
I shave mine on purpose. I mean, my whole thing is you can't fire me because I quit, so I just shaved it. Even
You don't
though
have
it's-
patches or anything, right?
No, man. I mean, I could have grow a full set of hair if I wanted to. I just
Well, that's
Man,
So anyway, I've got a story. I've got a story about this. I've had these types of visors for years and years and years, and I have a group of friends that I play a game called Magic: The Gathering. But it's a card game. But anyway, it's all over the world, and we were having a large convention here down at the convention center, 10,000 players, and of course all the guys know me. And they were standing in line, and they yell at me, "Hey, Mr. Rains," from, like 50 people back. And there was a young girl standing next to me. She was probably about 21. And, of course, she turns around to see who's yelling at me. And at the same time, they turn and look at her, and then they start pointing. They start pointing at her like this, and I knew what it was that they wanted. So she turns to look at me like, why are they pointing at me? And I said, well, it's because. And I took my hat off, and she just screamed.
I was about to scream, Rick. I almost jumped out of the chair over here.
Because from her perspective, I was taking the top of my head off, and there was just this scream that went out. And of course, all the guys, they just busted up because it's happened way more than just once. It's a frequent thing.
Do you guys have any other questions for Mr. Rick Raines over here, ladies and gentlemen?
I myself do not know.
No.
Brett, you guys have any property management you want to give me?
His new nickname's going to
My question off air was actually going to be, but I guess I should ask it on air, is define, excuse my ignorance, but what kind of property management are you doing? Like,
we do residential.
So not multifamily homes, just
sure.
houses. Oh, you do both?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, any place where where you live.
I can tell you this. I get probably about 10 calls a week for somebody to rent a house. Now, I don't refer all of them because sometimes it's like doesn't work out for Rick, but I mean, he's my go-to guy, right? For anybody that's looking to rent anything dealing with property management. This guy was on which news channel were you on?
Channel 13 Live News.
Yeah, he was on Channel 13, so he's got a lot of good knowledge on that stuff. But yeah, man, if you guys have anybody
Rick's
that wants
the man.
Rick's the man.
It seems to me that the cryptocurrency market in general is going to continue to rise, just like we've been talking about the real estate market. And the reason being is, as Brad has brought up many times, is that it's a limited supply. And as more and more people become aware of it, there's going to be more and more demand for it. And it may not have the huge fluctuations, or it may, depending on what the product is or what the.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm in favor of it not fluctuating.
Yeah,
because that's going to get more people to support it. I mean, you want real money to get behind it, which there is. But think about how. I mean, everybody that I know, 45 and older, who has real money, they're like, dude, this thing can move like this. It can move like that. It's a lot of uncertainty that scares a lot of people away from it.
Sure, but am I not right in saying that if it went up 5%, just like the real estate market, that it would continue that way, because then more and more people would see the legitimacy of it. I think that's what's going to.
That's why last year,
Rick, got anything to say here at the end of the show?
Yes, please get a hold of us. We'd love to talk to you. Atlas Group LC, www.property-mgmt.com. Look me up.
Again, this is the most real behind-the-scenes information regarding financing, real estate, money talk, entrepreneurs. I'm Dan French, your host. We'll see you on Saturday. We won't see you on Saturday.
Next
Tuesday.
See you next
Tuesday.